Hey guys, my name is Elijah Markins and I am a communication specialist at my local church. And we use Proclaim for all of our Sunday morning gatherings, for all of our slide content. And we're going through making some videos trying to show what all Proclaim can do. So today we're going to jump in with our sermon content. We're putting in sermon content for this next week's message. So we want to take you along, show you a little bit of what that process looks like, what you can do with Proclaim, and make it look nice. So let's jump in. So you already have Proclaim. You're just gonna go ahead and open that up. It's gonna check for updates. It's gonna load all of your sermon content, all of your slides, your graphics, everything that you've been using. It's gonna sync all of that up because again, it is cloud-based, which is a huge help when you are doing all of your collaborative type work. But takes you back here to your main screen. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna slide down, we're gonna pass all of our pre-service content. We're gonna go through our slides. All the way down here are our content slides. So we have our sermon graphic here. And this week we have one of our former pastors here that's gonna be teaching as well. So we have his name card. Like I said in a previous video, we do just very generic graphics underneath. That way we can change all of the text later. And so this is just our basic name card slide that we can change the name for. If you go up here, you see that this is all on the slide content. So this is what's going to show in the room. And then if you take a look at stream, the way that we have it set up, this lower thirds graphic is going to sit over top of our live stream. So we're going to do a video on the live stream as well. But for now, that's what we're going to see there. So we have his slide and that's going to come up. We found that about 8 seconds is a good amount of time to have a screen up on the slide, a screen up on the projector that has a name card or anything like that. We found that 8 seconds works really well. So we leave that at 8 seconds and then it will auto advance to this blank slide here. And from the blank slide, it moves into our main sermon graphic. Now, the reason we have this timed is we have the sermon graphic show on both the live stream and in the room full screen. So everyone gets to see that same piece. And later when we are editing sermons down for just the message portion, it makes it a nice little transition piece there at the very beginning, usually while the communicator is saying, welcome, glad you're here, good morning, something along those lines. So we leave that, and again, that is auto advancing as well. After 5 seconds, it will then move into what it looks like in the room. In the room, the graphic stays up, but for the stream, we want them to be able to see everything that's going on in the room for those that aren't on campus. So we move into a blank queue underneath this main slide content here. So in the room, you have your slide content, and on the stream, it would be blank showing what's going through on the live stream video. Next, we have our main content area. So at this point, we didn't have content yet, so I just left a couple pieces from just cleaning up. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna open up the file that we got from our pastor this week. And we're going to go through, we're just going to go piece by piece. I haven't read this yet, but we're just going to take that content, drop it here into Proclaim, make sure everything looks nice, and I'll show you how to do some of that. So the way that we work with our slide content is we typically have a big idea, and the big idea is the first thing typically that you see on the slides. You may have the passage of scripture if it's a little bit longer and they read that on the front end before they get into the big idea for the message. Either way though, that's typically how we lay it out. You may do things differently at your church. Feel free to change and update, but also feel free to use our layout if that works well for you. So right here we have our series title. We are going through the entire book of Genesis. Our text is Genesis 27:30 through 46. The title for this message is My Hero. And the big idea is the life we live is determined by the hero we love. And so we are going to jump in here. The beginning, he has a blank slide. So one thing you can do is you can just go right here. If you put a double dash right here, that's just going to give you your blank slide here. So we like to, when we make our graphic for our new sermon series, what I like to do is I like to have a blank version for all of the slide content to sit behind that matches the theme. Sometimes I'll leave the name in, like you can see here. Right down here we still have Genesis, but that's not always the case. Sometimes if it's a larger sermon graphic, it doesn't make sense to keep that in the bottom corner or at all. So sometimes it is generic, but this one matches with the worn paper theme. So we have that blank slide here, and then we have where he says a picture of the Renfro family. And so there are a couple different ways we can do it. We can either drop it in here. You can put a photo in here as a slide, essentially. Probably gonna be a little bit easier if we just duplicate this to give us some separation here. So this one's gonna be blank. So we can just leave this as a blank slide. Depending on how long it takes for him to get to the point where he talks about his family, we'll leave the one that's in theme, and we can go just directly to where we saved those photos. So we have these here. We're gonna drop all three in. You can, when you're doing slide content, photos can just drag and drop right in. And then we'll do the same thing with the second photo. And we can do the same with this third photo. So just click and drag, very simple. But I will say, if you are live streaming, one big thing to be aware of is you have this transparency behind if the photo doesn't fill the entire image. So what I like to do is go to background, and then you can fill that background with a fill color. And so if we do that, it will show up as that color instead of transparency, so you don't have the picture in the middle and then maybe edges of the stage or anything like that. So makes it a little bit easier with how my brain works. And so we'll do the same thing for all three of these. We'll just fill that with solid black, just like that. And so now it'll go from this blank slide to the main sermon graphic, and then in the room that will stay up, but on the stream it will disappear, and we'll get a blank slide. He'll reintroduce himself. He hasn't been gone very long, so that shouldn't take all that long, but if he gives an update on his family, we'll have that photo there, we'll have this photo here, and we'll have that final photo there before going back to our sermon content item here. So we've got that. So we've got the picture of the family, and then we have a blank slide, and then we have our big idea. So what I like to do is I like to write out what they have written instead of just copying and pasting. And the reason why is because sometimes what we write out may not sound the same when spoken. I'm sure that he has already figured out how he wants that said. That's fine. A lot of times we are that safety net, though, in case something doesn't quite make sense. So I like to just read it from the paper that they have, type it out, and then that way that's squared away. So we have the life we live, is determined by the hero we love, with period. And so you can look here to the right, that text has dropped in here. Now, one thing that you may be used to, especially if you're coming from maybe MediaShout, or you're dealing with PowerPoint or anything like that, or just Presenter, you may be used to editing where visually you would be seeing it. So like if I wanted to edit these letters here, I would typically double click that. Well, this is really just a preview window. Right here in the middle is where you're really going to be doing the majority of the editing. And so everything here is where you're going to be adding your text to this section. Now we do have it set up where this is a text box that goes throughout each piece here. You can customize all of this. If you have titles that you want to keep on each slide, you can add a text box for that, and it can duplicate across each slide individually. The way we have it set up has been keeping that text box where this whole piece here, each one is a slide. Now, you do have different fill in the blanks where you can fade text in and out, insert Bible passages, all of these tools here at your disposal. As far as formatting goes, this is a style that we like, but you can add your own fonts in here. This section here is where you're going to choose which font you want to be using. You have all of the different format and visual options that you're typically used to all up here. As far as the text itself goes, we have just a very simple drop shadow and an outer glow that we keep on our main idea texts. And you can change that very easily by going up here to effects, and you can see drop shadow and outer glow. If I uncheck these boxes, it'll get rid of those pieces. And this we didn't feel had enough contrast from the background. So adding that drop shadow and then softening that a little bit with the outer glow helps it pop off the background. You can add different effects. There are different styles that are pre-made. So you have all of these different options that are pre-made that are in here. You can use, any of them. You have different guides. You can arrange. The background is where I was using to do more of the visual background, but you can add text boxes can be added, and you can add those to slides individually. Same with foreground images. It really is a powerful program, and you can do a lot with it. So we have our big idea here, and we're going to move on. He has a blank slide after that. And then point 1, we're going to add another blank slide here. So it'll go from this blank slide to the life we live is determined by the hero we love. Blank slide. And then instead of this being Genesis 27, 1 through 13, this is going to say my moment. And it's not going to have a period on it. And what we like to do is we still do fill in the blanks. So we give them their bulletin, and the bulletin each week will have fill in the blank pieces just to help people stay engaged. And so on this one here, we are going to highlight moment. We are going to underline, and we are probably going to bold just like that. So now if you look at this piece here, it says my moment. And honestly, I can make that lowercase. Oops. We can underline and bold that as well. There we go. Now that matches my moment. And then we can go into what he has next, which is Genesis 27, 30 through 33. Now, you see this right here. It's like, oh, well, I don't have to write out the whole passage. No, you don't. So go ahead and scroll down. You have this whole section here that has the passage that we are working with. The way we have it set up is you have this section here, and you'll see there are plenty of pre-made options. So feel free to adjust to your liking, but we have the reference up top. We have which version of the Bible we're working through, and then we have the actual body text itself. You can adjust how these look, all of that. You can still adjust just like you can normal text. So it'll fill all of this in, and that will just be in line. Let's see, we already passed where the end of this one was. So after this section here, I'm just gonna add a blank slide. So we have 27, 30 through 33, and that's what he's looking for right there with a blank slide after. And then we move to point number 2, which is my pain. We're gonna underline and bold the point number 2 that we're working with. And as we come up here, we have our Bible passage that goes into blank slide afterwards. And now to that point number 2. So we have point number 2, and we can see that Genesis 27, 34 through 38 is our next up. 27, 34 through 38. And so that will go from my pain to this next point, starting in verse 34 and going all the way through verse 38. After that, we have a blank slide again, which we have here, which then moves into this quote. Now, we like to differentiate what the quotes look like. So you can do it a couple different ways. So you can either keep a quote in with the same text thread that you're doing here. But one thing we like to do is keep it as a separate item. So that way, if the communicator moves around a little bit and doesn't line up directly with where they want to put that quote and where that quote needs to be, whoever's operating slides that week, they can jump to exactly where the quote is. So I'm going to duplicate what we have here already just by coming over here and duplicate this item. And I'm just going to say that this is Tim Keller quote and 8/11/24. And now, separate from the slides that I had before, I'm going to jump in here. This is Tim Keller quote, and we're going to delete all of this. And we are going to start specifically with, oh, we don't need bold. What is an idol? Is anything more important to you than God? Anything that absorbs your heart and imagination more than God? Anything you seek to give you what only God can give. End quote there. And so the reason why I keep this in a separate piece as well is sometimes we need to format it a little differently. And with Proclaim, if things are in the same text item and you try and format one slide, it's going to format the other ones to match what you just did, which most of the time is helpful. But there are times where you want things to look a little different, or there are certain things that maybe you just needed that one piece of text a little bit wider. It makes a little bit more sense just to do it in a separate item. So we have this here, and I'm looking at this and saying I can probably move this up so that I can put his name underneath. So I can do that a couple different ways. One way, just to show you a different way, is you can go add text box, and that adds a text box here that I can now say Tim Keller, counterfeit gods. So I can move that text down here. What I'm probably going to do is I'm going to align this text to the center, and then under the color, we're just going to do a solid white, and the effects, we're going to do a drop shadow and outer glow, which are way too much. So you can adjust each of these effects as well. So just like that, I'm going to go like this and bring that down to match. And I'm just eyeballing this. Really, we're just trying to get here. We may not even need it on the whole thing. Yeah. And then we're going to edit this outer glow, and we're going to bring that down to match. Yeah, that's closer. So now we have this piece in here. We have the main body of the quote, and we have who actually gave us this piece. A lot of times too, you might have an option if you decided with your slide background to keep the logo in. You might make one for text slides like this that doesn't have the logo, just in case you run into something that goes all the way down to the bottom of the page. This one's pretty close, but we can see Genesis doesn't actually get in the way on this one. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. Now you may be saying, oh, well, you haven't hit save this whole time. Well, right up here, we have this blue circle with 3 dots in it that says synchronization pending. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna click that, and it's gonna synchronize. Now, this is cloud-based, so every other unit that's in our group, our Faith Life group, now can open this project, and they can open up this presentation, and they will see all the changes that I've made from any computer in our church network. So what's really nice about this is I don't have to go to the computer in the sanctuary to do all of the slide content. I can do that from my office. And While I'm doing that, our worship pastor can put in the lyric slides for Sunday, whoever's praying, the prayer points. Our technical producer can add in lighting cues. He can add little transition pieces. All of these different things can happen all at the same time, which is a huge, huge help. And so if you're on a system where you can't do that and you want to be more collaborative, on a normal week, the pastor can put in his content by himself. I can put in slide content, visual or video content. Our tech producer and our worship pastor all at the same time can be working on a project, and it works really well. So if that's something that you're running into, especially as a church creative, it can be very easy to overwhelm yourself. But if you need to offload some things, this is a really easy way to do that, is to set them up with a Proclaim account, which pricing wise is still better than a lot of the big names. I think you know the one I'm talking about. Pricing wise, not even comparable, even with their new subscription model. So it really is a pretty powerful program that people have used for digital signage and that, but it can do a lot more than what people give it credit for. So if you're looking for a cheaper alternative, this honestly can be the way to go. We run our live stream graphics through it. We do all of our lighting cues through MIDI. We'll do a video on that, talking all about how we use Proclaim for that. But all that being said, it's a great program. And now that it is synchronized, my home laptop can see that this is updated. Our worship pastor can see that it's updated. Everybody can see that it's updated. So hugely important and helpful. So we have this quote in here now, and we can go back, we can take a look. So we've got this piece here. Great. He wants a blank slide, and then our idols are exposed when we can't have them. That's good. That's good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate our slides from before once again, and we're just going to bring this down underneath the quote. So we know we have the quote, and now that we have multiple different points, different parts of the same sermon content, I'm going to say part 1, and then we're going to say part 2. Jumping in here, our idols are exposed, so we don't need that in bold anymore. Don't need this in bold. Our idols, are exposed. We can't have them. Now, I don't like the way that this overhangs as much, so visually I'm going to adjust this. Again, not over here, but what I can do is I can say, I think we being on the bottom line will help. And that is better. Let's take a look now what it looks like when we have when. I think I like that just a little bit better. So we're going to leave that there. We get our preview of what that looks like in the room there as well. So we have that. Now we have another blank slide, and then it moves into what good thing are you turning into an ultimate thing? And so there are a couple of different ways that you can do this one as well, but the way that I'm going to do it is I'm going to put the question up top. What good thing are you turning into an ultimate thing? So we can do this piece here, and what I'm going to do is we're going to have another slide break here, and it's going to say power, performance, prosperity, pleasure. Got a good old-fashioned Baptist message here. But what this did, you have this blank slide here. We're going to bring that up. So what good thing are you turning into an ultimate thing? We see power here, but you're saying, oh, it's not centered. Well, adding these two plus signs here means it's a little shortcut. That means it's going to add whatever this content is as a new slide that adds that text to the slide from before. So power doesn't go anywhere. And then performance doesn't go anywhere when we're bringing in prosperity. And then same thing with pleasure. On each of these, it adds to the slide instead of just being a new slide, which stylistically helps. If you have multiple points like this that they're trying to communicate very quickly, all this is one slide after the next, after the next, after the next, in a cool little transition piece there. Makes it nice and easy. So we're gonna move to our next one, which is our point 3, which is my comfort. And we are going to bold this, underline, and then give ourselves till the next slide, where we're going to talk about Genesis 27, and we're going to say 41 through 45. 41 through 45. And that's going to drop that text in here. So we've got all of that. He'll read through all of this, another blank slide after that. And then we are going to, we need this one, but we don't need this one. We're going to go back to this section here. We cannot ease our pain, by trying to erase our pain. Ooh. Now I really want to know what he's getting at this week. And I think visually that looks good. I like that point. I'm excited for Sunday. Okay, so we got that. We have another blank slide after that. That will then go, what are you seeking comfort in? Now, visually, that looks bad. So what I'm gonna see how it looks is if we drop seeking, that looks significantly better. What are you seeking comfort in? Good. Okay, then we're moving on to Genesis 27:46. See what that looks like. Then Rebekah said to Isaac, I loathe my life because of the Hittite women. If Jacob marries one of the Hittite women like these, one of the women of the land, what good will my life be to me? Woo, ready to jump back into Genesis, man. Okay, got another blank. And then who is the hero of your story? And then we're just gonna reiterate the big idea, which is the life we live is determined by the hero we love. And we're gonna just, since that's our main point, we're gonna make that bold, and then we're gonna drop in one more blank slide behind there. Beautiful, beautiful. Synchronize our changes. And that is one nice thing, especially if you're loading for whoever's communicating that week. You get excited, man. I'm excited for Sunday. Okay. So now we have taken a look through his entire slide content. We're going to double check. We're going to go back through, make sure that we have everything correctly. And we luckily have a meeting on our Thursday mornings, which is our last day in the office for the week, just to take a look and make sure that all of the content is the way that it needs to look. We project it up onto TV, and then we go through each slide as we would on a Sunday morning, just to see exactly what that looks like, to catch any errors that whoever made the presentation may have made, any mistakes that I may have made. We have a lovely staff member. Her name's Linda. She's great. She does all of the proofreading and the checking, especially grammar. She is great. So if you don't have someone like a Linda in your life, get yourself a Linda. But we now can take a look through. We're going to go through all the slides. This is just that one blank slide. We have our 3 kids slides. And then we got the quote. And then, yeah. So one thing I like to do as well is you can, if you have a dual screen setup like what I'm working with, I love it. you can actually go on air, which is how you present with Proclaim. We'll do a whole video on it, and you can go slide by slide, and that's what I'm going to do. You can either hit on air like this, but that's going to start you at the very beginning, and I don't want to get demonetized for playing music I don't have the licensing to. So I'm just going to start with the piece that we started with here, which was our blank slide. And now you can see over here on this screen, we have the actual presentation. Our timed piece goes directly into his name card slide, and then that's going to go away here in just a second. Here is the preview monitor. Preview monitor shows you in red here what's live. You can either click from here, or there are a couple different ways you can preview it. You can go slide by slide like this, where you can see everything all at once. So we have all of our slide lyrics for this week. So I'm gonna skip past all of those. And we have all of our slide content slides like all of this. So what I'm gonna do is you can also just do it large screen like this. That's gonna make it a little bit easier for you guys to see. But we can move from this. It's gonna automatically go. So that's timed. And you can see over here, you have a little timer, and then it automatically moved over to the wait here slide. Then we're gonna go to the blank slide. There should not be 6 of the blank slides. I don't know why there are 12 blank slides. I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. I don't know why this did that. Okay, well, I'll look into that. But worst comes to worst, I could just take this whole section out and just use the visual for this graphic and drop that in as a picture instead of slide content like this. Then we have the photos of the kids, more photos of the kids, and then we have a picture of Lee and his wife, Michelle. And then we move into our slide content here, which goes to our big idea section. So the life we live is determined by the hero we love. We can move on to that blank slide there. My moment, going into our passage of scripture here in Genesis chapter 27. So he's going to go through this section here, goes back to a blank, second point, goes through each of these, and then blank, back to another passage of scripture. Now, that blank is the last blank in that section of text. And next we have that quote, if you remember. So that's going to come up, gives us plenty of room, and we can sit on this as long as we need to, let people read it, and it can sit there until moving on. It did the same thing here. Why did it make 12 of them? I don't know why I did that. That is a new problem that I'll figure out. Because that one's like the same. I don't know. I don't know on that one. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Probably has something to do with the duplication. Yeah, so you have that. Then you move into your last body of text here. Our idols are exposed when we can't have them, which really excited to jump into that this week. Then what good thing are you turning into an ultimate thing? Here's how that works. So we have power, performance, prosperity, pleasure. So that way each point stays on the screen as the next one gets added in. It's a nice, simple little ad there, but it can really help when it comes to delivering those pieces of content. So do it or don't, totally up to you. Then we move into our last point here, my comfort, getting back into the scripture. And then blank slide, moving into we cannot ease our pain by trying to erase our pain. That's true. What are you seeking comfort in? That call to action piece there. Final verse. And then, who is the hero of your story? And the big idea that we started the message with, moving into a blank slide. And now is when he can give kind of those final thoughts. We can pray, have a moment of invitation and reflection before moving into our last song of the day. So that's how that works. I'm going to look into why those had a million extra slides, but that's not a normal occurrence. It'll probably be fixed by the time anyone watches this video. So that's the case there. Just make sure that you stay synchronized once you're done, and then go through, double check. Like I said, we have that meeting on Thursdays, and then we'll collaborate and see what the issue may have been on that. But that is how you add content in for your sermons. So hopefully this has been helpful to you. Really, it is fairly simple, and it's really powerful to where you can make a lot of adjustments. Really, you can make it look however you want. And the nice thing about that is you're not paying a premium for that. It is, depending on your church's budget, it may be still something that's a little bit on the pricey side in comparison to some of the other programs that would do something similar. We've loved it for what we do. When you can use this entire suite for as many people as you want to add to it. You have options there. It really is a great tool, great program for us. So hopefully this was helpful to you. We're gonna do more of these videos here just to help you see what all Proclaim can do. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. I will link the overview video that I did first right up there or down below, whichever one you want to click. And that will really, hopefully give you a brief overview of what the whole program can do and see if it works well for you and your ministries. But we love it here at our church. So thank you. Thank you for watching. And remember, God is a creative God, and you were made in his image. So go be creative, all for his glory. And we'll see you in the next one.